All right, welcome back to the First and Gold podcast. I'm your host, Sam Gold, and as you can see by the video today, we are back doing tier lists. We haven't done these that often during the season. We did a ton of these in the offseason. You guys love them. I enjoy doing them, and we got a good one today. Let's jump right into it. We have ranking every NFL broadcaster. Now, we have every play-by-play announcer that is currently doing the NFL, that has done NFL games the last couple of years. There's some guys we left out that have maybe recently stopped doing broadcasting, such as, Joe Tessitore, Sean McDonough, McCarthy, Tom Brenneman. Well, that's for good reason. But we got mostly everybody here. We also have some color commentators, not all of them, but just more of the prominent figures in the NFL, such as, your Tony Romos or your Chris Collinsworth. So we got a good list here. We got our normal setup. We got S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and F tier. And you know what? Let's just get right into it. I'm excited for this one. And we have the goat of all goats, the guy who's sitting right behind me, staring into your soul, Mr. Kevin Harlan, up first. And I'm just going to be honest, this may be the only S tier person I'm going to put on here. We'll see. But I'm just warning you, spoiler alert, he's the best one on here. He's my favorite announcer, probably of all time, for any sport you can say. He's got the best voice. He is the voice of NBA 2K. He should be the voice of Madden, if you ask me. People are annoyed that he's never done a TV broadcast of the Super Bowl. Now, he does do the radio broadcasts, which is good, but I also agree, I hope one day he could actually call it on TV, because people need to just see the genius that is Kevin Harlan. I mean, he's so amazing. His voice is classic. Not only that, what I like about Kevin Harlan is he doesn't just solely ride on his voice sounding great. He also just uses such perfect phrases and verbs and adjectives, and he's even funny. You got the classic, the cat running onto the field and Kevin Harlan commentating that.
And the cat is in the CDW red zone. CDW, people who get it now, a policeman, a state trooper has come on the field, and the cat runs into the end zone. That is a touchdown. And the cat is elusive.
You got streakers going onto the field and him commentating like it's a running back, doing a normal play on the field.
Hey, somebody has run out on the field. Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way.
You got I'm calling both games from 2019, week 17.
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
Which Ryan Fitzpatrick helped the Chiefs secure a bye spot, and Kevin Harlan was basically looking at both games and calling it. It was such a great moment in broadcast history. I'm shocked that he's a C tier Fox or CBS guy, which I wish he got bumped up, but I mean, I get it. There, you got your Iron Eagles, you got your Jim Nantzes, but truly the goat of goats. I don't know how anybody's gonna beat him. He's got such a great voice. If you hear him doing interviews outside of broadcasting, his voice sounds just like that. He's not putting it on for a show. He's truly got one of the best voices on earth, not only for broadcasting. I mean, imagine waking up every day and sounding like Kevin Harlan. He's S tier. It's going to be hard to beat that. Kevin Harlan's just the GOAT. Speaking of guys that are very classic, got a great soothing voice, I got to put him probably at the top of A tier. It's Jim Nantz. He's the A guy on CBS. He's with Tony Romo now. Speaking of Madden, he used to be the Madden announcer until Brandon Gaudin came along. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Yeah, just another one of those guys where it's the start of the NFL season, and when his game comes on, you hear his voice, it just feels soothing. It just feels like, man, I'm back to the best time of the year again, finally. As a Chiefs fan, I feel like he's called so many big and important Chiefs games, Chiefs wins.
Hill, the whole brigade around him. Hill gets around Standard. Look at Hill go! Impossible! Touchdown, Kansas City! How did they do that?
He's loosened up a little bit now that Tony Romo has come along. I wouldn't say Tony Romo was a positive addition, though. We'll get to him much later. I don't like him at all. But yeah, Jim Nantz, he just keeps it very consistent. He's been voice cracking a little bit here and there the last 2 years. But yeah, I'm going to be nice to him here. That doesn't really matter. I hope he has at least 5 more years left in him now. It's a lot to ask for a guy that's been doing this for so long, but I just love hearing Jim Nantz every Sunday. He's just one of those guys that makes me feel, good. So I got to put him in A tier. Another guy that brings the energy, is a little bit younger, who just recently did his first ever Super Bowl broadcast. It's Kevin Burkhardt. He's the A announcer now for Fox. I'm also going to put him in A tier. I love Kevin Burkhardt. I think for the longest time he was very underrated, but I guess not. I guess not to the networks because he was bumped up to the A tier. He was with Greg Olsen for a little bit, and now Greg Olsen got demoted. We'll get to him just up next, actually. But I think, him on Fox, just like with Jim Nantz, he calls a lot of big games. And even games that aren't as interesting, he doesn't seem to fade away from making, big plays, even if it's a blowout, sound very energetic and very fun. I just feel like, he did a great job calling his first ever Super Bowl, Chiefs-Eagles.
Loose, sitting on the turf. It's picked up by Bolton. No one in front of him is going to score.
I thought there were a lot of exciting moments, and he really portrayed that. I don't like that he's paired with Tom Brady now. We'll also get to him later, but I think he brings it every single Sunday. I love Kevin Burkhardt, and he deserves to be in the A tier for sure. And then Greg Olsen, just mentioned him. I think he got absolutely disrespected being demoted. Now, I understand it's Tom Brady. Like, obviously, he's a bigger name. People are going to want to watch him. He's going to bring in more revenue. Fine, I understand that, but I think Greg Olsen, already in a short color commentary career, put together so many great games and moments that, it just feels very disrespectful that he got demoted to the B tier team. And I just think he's honestly probably the best color commentator in the NFL. Yeah, I said it. He's right there. I just, when former players come on to do broadcasting, it's usually very hit or miss. I wasn't familiar with Greg Olsen's personality prior to him doing this. Obviously I knew him as a player, but just so professional. He knows when to joke around, but he also knows when to give great insight.
Around a little bit, huh? I don't hear you. You're sitting on something. You sat on the cough button.
I'm so excited.
Hard to sit on the cough button, but there you go.
It's just this first half, it seemed like Tennessee couldn't do anything right.
I think he makes a lot of great points and big moments. He doesn't try to overreact. He watches what's in front of him, and he gives very constructive criticism. He's very unbiased. He's very objective. So, Greg Olsen, I hope he gets more of the spotlight as his career goes on, but he's definitely A tier. Honestly, I'm thinking with the S tier right now, do I go one play-by-play in S tier and one color commentator in S tier? I feel like that's fair. So I'm going to go out and put Greg Olsen in S tier. You know what? I'm going to do it. I didn't think anybody could be on the same level as Kevin Harlan, but I think it's only fair I do one play-by-play, one color commentator as the two best in the NFL. So Greg Olsen, you've only been around for, since 2019, 2018? So you deserve it for sure. All right, Gus Johnson, A tier. Now, the only gripe with Gus Johnson is he has not done a lot of recent NFL games. He did come back in 2021 to call some games, which I loved. I think he's a great college commentator. He does a lot of basketball as well. Talk about bringing the energy. He's top tier for that. And his voice is kind of goofy, but it's not to the point where it's distracting. I think it enhances these moments to make them kind of funny, but also very intense and great. So I love Gus Johnson. I wish he would do more games. I mean, hell, he makes these boring games very interesting. Like Cardinals-Jaguars from 2 years ago, he had a great call of that block kick. I mean, his most famous NFL call has got to be, I believe it was the first ever Red Zone episode in 2009, week 1, Broncos-Bengals. Brandon Stokely catches the tip pass to win the game in the final seconds.
Bat it up. Oh, God! Stokely down the sideline. Can they catch him? Stokely! Wow! Touchdown! Denver! Unbelievable!
Yeah, Gus Johnson. He's definitely up there. I got to put him in A tier. Okay, Joe Buck. Probably our first controversial guy on here on this list. Now, if this was 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, a lot of people put him at the bottom, maybe even F tier. And I totally understand that. You go back to some of his worst early career moments. You got, the helmet catch in the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, just absolutely no energy.
Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet, airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree.
He called it like it was a 4-yard pass. in the fourth quarter of a blowout of like a Jaguars game. But yeah, I don't know what was up with him for most of his career at the beginning there. He just brought nothing. Just way too professional, no energy, no excitement. You know, he's got the famous Randy Moss mooning the crowd and saying that is a disgusting act.
As he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss. And it's unfortunate that we had that on our air live. That is disgusting by Randy Moss.
Obviously, you shouldn't have said that, but I think that was a great classic moment. So basically what I'm building up to here is that, yes, the majority of his career, he's been pretty bad. But I am doing this tier list in the year of 2024, and I gotta say, let's say post-COVID, I think he's actually been great. I really do. I think he's brought the energy. Maybe somebody has said something to him. I don't know, maybe something's happened to him in his life where he just wants to, you know, be a different type of commentator now. I don't know what it is, but he's definitely flipped the switch.
It's week 13, good matchup in the NFC South. It's December. Can you believe it? Already December. Let's go. I can't say one. Yeah, I can't say one of those words. There he is, the red rifle, got that beard all tucked into that chin strap, ready to go.
So yeah, I think Joe Buck has been good lately. And you want to go one of the most famous calls of all time, one of the best calls? He has it in the Minneapolis Miracle.
The pass is caught. Diggs, sideline, touchdown, unbelievable. Vikings win it.
I'm actually going to put Joe Buck in A. I'll put him at the bottom of A, but, you know, it's a little controversial, but I'm ranking him right now, and I think he really is the most improved play-by-play in a long time. All right, Ian Eagle. Now, this picture is with him and Charles Davis. I'm not going to rank Charles Davis. He's fine, but Ian Eagle, bar none, one of the best CBS commentators. I'm also putting him in A tier. We got a lot of great commentators right off the bat. I promise there's going to be some in the lower tiers, but we just happen to get a lot of good guys right here at the beginning. Ian Eagle, you know, his son, Noah Eagle, just started calling NFL games as well, so it runs in the family. He's just such a classic voice. Once again, as a Chiefs fan, he's called so many games, not only in the Patrick Mahomes era, but back when we were a little more irrelevant with Alex Smith. The first two Chiefs games I ever went to in person at MetLife, Giants and Jets, he called those games as well. I love that. He called the Miami Miracle.
Oh, look out! Gronkowski didn't have the angle! Touchdown! Oh, Kenyon Drake! Miracle!
I just like the way, I just like the inflection of his voice. Like, oh, incredible! Like, that's how he says it. I think he's got a lot of energy, but he's not too annoying. Like, he's got a perfect voice. It's not too loud. He's good at cracking jokes sometimes, you know. Almost any other commentator would have made the Kelsey found the blank space line last year with Taylor Swift. I probably would have rolled my eyes a little bit more, but since Ian Eagle said it, it just kind of made me laugh.
Kelsey finds a blank space for the score.
So yeah, I got to put him in A tier as well. Another guy who's very controversial. If I'm going to put Joe Buck in A tier, people are going to be like, all right, well, now you have to put Chris Collinsworth in A tier. But he's my first B tier. And it's funny that I'm putting him in the middle because you either love him or hate him. So it's kind of weird that I'm putting him in a mid-level area. Obviously, he's one of the most classic color commentators in my entire lifetime. I grew up listening to him on Sunday Night Football. Whenever you hear his voice, you're like, man, football season's back. Let's go. But you got to admit, I mean, even as a Chiefs fan, with the Mahomes stuff, really with any star player, star quarterback, like, I hate using this word. I can't think of anything else right now. But the glazing is out of control. It really just is. It's too much at this point.
Anytime you play man coverage against Patrick Mahomes, he knows it. He knows which side you don't have help on. He goes that way. He breaks your back. He breaks your spirit. And he wins world championships. And he becomes the most valuable player in the league. End of story.
It's too much sometimes. It really is. When it's an intense, close primetime game, and you're just trying to focus on that, and then Chris Collinsworth is calling like a Mahomes incomplete pass, the best thing he's ever seen, and Josh Allen, the greatest player he's ever, like, just all this shit, man. It's too much sometimes. So that definitely drags him down. What pulls him up is definitely just how classic he is, and that, you know, I loved hearing him my whole life. And, you know, it's Chris Collinsworth. He's iconic. Andrew Catalon, I'm going to go B tier. I don't mind Andrew Catalon. I think he's pretty underrated. I think he brings the energy as well. You know, he does a lot of like C-tier AFC matchups on CBS, so you might not see him or hear him too often. unless you're watching Red Zone or your favorite team is like the Colts. I feel like he does a lot of those like AFC South games, maybe AFC East, Dolphins. He's got one of those like higher toned voices, which does make for a good broadcaster when moments get intense.
Darnold steps up, deep shot for Robbie Anderson. He's got him! Touchdown!
You know, he's been here for most of the 2010s and to present day, so I've heard him a lot of times. And yeah, I think he's solidly in B tier. Adam Amin. Now, he's newer. There's a couple of these newer guys. It's like him, Kevin Kugler, Joe Davis, and I mean newer for play-by-play for NFL. I believe Adam Amin started during, like COVID? He replaced some of those guys, like your Tom Brennemans or McCarthy. But I actually think he's also pretty underrated. I'll put him at the bottom of B tier. Another one of those guys who's got a higher pitched voice, but he's very professional. I think the only thing that drags, it's not even on him because we're ranking these guys individually, but it is hard to listen to Adam Amin broadcast, not because of him, but because of Mark Sanchez. Where's Mark Sanchez? I'll already rank him on here. He's going to be our first F tier candidate. Just awful. I mean, he's the butt fumble of color commentators is basically what I'm saying. I think him and Adam Amin have good chemistry in the booth and they can joke around sometimes and it's fun, but not all the time. They do it, or at least Mark Sanchez does it constantly in close games. He mentions stuff that's completely irrelevant.
He's clearing out defenders faster than a teenager clears his search history on his web browser. Holy smokes.
He talks over the guy during big plays. He's always reacting during a touchdown. It's like, dude, wait to react. Like, the whole point of a play-by-play is he talks during the play, and you wait, and you do the analysis afterwards. I'm sick of it with Mark Sanchez. I really am. So he's F tier, and I'll give Adam Amin the benefit of the doubt because I really don't hate the guy. I'll put him in B. Chris Myers. So there's some people I've talked to who don't like Chris Myers. Shout out, I know you're listening, but here's the thing with Chris Myers. I want to put him a little bit higher because I actually find his goofy voice a little bit endearing. And I know that when he's going to retire, I'm going to miss it. I just think it's funny. You know, he calls a lot of NFC games. You know, if you don't know what he sounds like, he's like, and that'll be a Buccaneer touchdown.
First and goal. That's Kerryon Johnson, and that's going to be a Lions touchdown.
And anytime he does a field goal, it's just, it's up there. It's out there. It's through there.
It's up there. It's out there.
I want to see how close I got to that. But he literally does that for almost every play. It's so funny. He's just so goofy. I don't really know what his personality's like otherwise than just his weird play calls. But look, a lot of people don't like it. I'm going to put him in B tier, and I'll put him above Andrew Catalon. I don't know. I kind of like Chris Myers. I'm going to miss him when he's gone one day and I'm retired. So I grew up listening to him a lot. I can't help it. So I like Chris Myers. He does a lot of sports. He's been around for a long time. So give him the respect of at least a B tier. All right, Kevin Kugler. It's nothing against him. I just feel like he's kind of forgettable. He, you know, as a Chiefs fan, he does a lot of game. I don't think he's really ever done a Chiefs game, maybe once in the Mahomes era. He's a newer guy as well. He's been around since I think the start of COVID. So, I don't know. There's nothing really against him. He was the one guy I had to listen to a clip of him before we started this podcast just to refresh exactly what he sounded like. He wasn't necessarily bad. I just think he was kind of average and forgettable.
Fields in some trouble trying to get it to come out, and it's intercepted. Okuda with the pick, and little one picks big one and takes it for a touchdown.
All right, next up is Brandon Gaudin. Now, if you don't play Madden, you're not going to know who this is. He has been the Madden announcer for, man, I mean, it's been like almost 10 years at this point, I think. And I'm going to put him in C tier for two reasons. One, because I'm honestly just so sick of hearing his voice. I play too much Madden, and it's really not even his fault. It's the game's fault for just not updating the same 10 lines he says after every play.
And he lost the football. Mariota had it jarred loose. And the Jags grab it. The big man, get the oxygen tank ready.
And then my second reason is just he actually doesn't have that much experience calling real-life NFL games. He pops up every now and then. I think I've only heard him do like 3 or 4 NFL games ever. He did a couple last year, I believe. But yeah, I'm just so sick of his voice. I'm sorry, Brandon Gaudin. I'm sure you're good. There's a reason why you became the Madden announcer. I'm sure you're very professional. I'm sure you do other sports. But yeah, I'm going to fill you out into C tier. I apologize. Okay. Troy Aikman, I'm going to actually put in B tier. I think, believe it or not, Joe Buck is the better part of that broadcasting crew. I'm going to put Troy Aikman at the bottom, too. Like, although he is classic, he's been around for a while now, he just puts me to sleep. Like, I thought I was going to have more to say about him, at least positively, but now just thinking about him, I can't think of a great Troy Aikman moment.
You try to, and I'm sure that they want him to play more than I do, so, I mean, I'm going to shut up.
And Tony Romo's face has definitely gotten redder. It feels like they're shining a light on him, or he just looks like a big tomato. He just looks grumpy. I don't know. I don't really like Troy Aikman. I feel like he's very negative, too. So, I'll put him at the bottom of B tier. Spiro Ditas, the Canadian. Touchdown, Jacksonville. I don't know. Is that what he sounds like? Maybe put up a clip. Maybe I'm right.
Who's got it? Touchdown! Jacksonville on the recovery.
He does a lot. I feel like he does a lot of AFC South games. He's just stick him over there. Go ahead, go to Jacksonville, go to Tennessee, and just call a game nobody cares about. But I do like Spiro. I will put him in B tier. I will put him smack dab in the middle of Andrew Catalon and Adam Amin. I know people watching this are like, hold on, Spiro and Andrew Catalon are better than Chris Collinsworth and Chris Myers, but I think those two are a little more classic for me. The B tier is very close. I like Sparrow, though. I like Sparrow. I think he does basketball as well. It's just, he's another one of those guys where his Canadian accent, that's just what I think of when I hear him. I can't really think of one of his best play calls, per se, but he is very classic when he comes onto the screen. I think he's very professional. He's got a decent amount of energy. I wouldn't say he's, like, the most memorable in that factor, but yeah, I think he's perfectly, like, slightly above average. Okay, this is Joe Davis. So when Joe Davis first came around in the NFL, I didn't necessarily like him, but he's done enough bigger games now. I think he's the B guy for Fox. He's with Greg Olsen now. I actually like Joe Davis. He's growing on me, so I'm actually going to put him at the top of B tier. I know a lot of people like Joe Davis, and I'm starting to understand it. He's very professional. He has great calls. Just for me, I just didn't love his voice, to be honest. And I know that sounds a little bit petty, but that's a huge part of broadcasting. It's the voice.
For the win, on the way, it is there, and the Eagles remain unbeaten.
I think he's starting to earn his way up there. So I'm going to put him at top of B tier. I like Joe Davis. Tony Romo, F, bottom of F. He's probably going to be last on here. If this was 2017, 2018, his first couple years, great, cool. I mean, it was nice to see a guy who has tons of personality, who can maybe relate to the younger audiences a little bit more. He brought more energy and charisma out of Jim Nantz. You could definitely say that. And obviously his knowledge and insight of the NFL is immense. And he was able to predict a lot of plays, coming up, and he got a lot of that right, which was cool for the first couple of years. But there's a certain point where you're just like, dude, stop. Like, even if you're right, you're kind of spoiling a play. You're kind of ruining it. He talks way too often during plays as well. I mean, one of my biggest gripes was just last year when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Like, he's going on and on about the clock running down. He's like, I don't know if people are going to be confused, Jim. Like, and then he's just, as Mahomes is throwing it to McCall Hardman, he's like, for the Super Bowl. He's like, shut the fuck up. Like, let Jim Nantz call his call. Like, he had a great line with Jackpot Kansas City because they were playing in Vegas, and Jim Nantz is like frothing, or not Jim Nantz, but Tony Romo's frothing at the mouth because Patrick Mahomes did something. And this is coming from a Chiefs fan. Like, I enjoy people loving Patrick Mahomes, but with him and Chris Collinsworth, what is it now, 7-8 years into Mahomes' career, it's beginning to just be way too much.
And he has to get around the hand. He wanted to throw. That looked a little Mahomey.
And he's just joking around in these moments, and he's saying so many things that just make me roll my eyes. I mean, I can't think of a ton off the top of my head, but I just remember watching him in these big moments in these big games. Like last year against the Ravens in the AFC Championship games, he was just saying so many things when it was such a tense moment where he'd be joking around or just something completely unrelated, and I'm just sick of the guy now. I think it's gotten to his head. A lot of people praise him at the beginning, but I think me, along with a lot of fans, are starting to turn on him. The I don't know Jims get pretty old, especially as a Chiefs fan, when he's a part of so many big games of Mahomes' career. and I just feel like it's too much with him. So, yeah, he's honestly dead last. He's a love him or hate him guy, and right now, unfortunately, I'm a hate him guy, so I'm sorry. Okay, Greg Gumbel. This is a guy who did retire a few years ago, but I put him on here just because he's super classic for my childhood. He called so many games, but he is sleepy.
Trying the right side again, turning the corner, looking for the end zone. Did he get there? He did.
I think he is very boring. He doesn't bring a lot of energy. I'm going to put him in C tier, unfortunately, for Greg Gumbel. He's been around for a long time. Yeah, I just don't think he brings it. Maybe that's the reason why he retired. I don't know how old he is, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of Greg Gumbel. Kenny Albert, another one like Greg Gumbel. Just like that, I'm also going to put him in C tier, and that'll be a Giants touchdown. And then it just, fades into probably one of the craziest, most HD camera angles of the end zone when a player is celebrating on a Fox NFC game that nobody cares about. He always calls at MetLife for the Giants, so I'm sure Giants fans are already sick of Kenny Albert. He does so many other games. Just very boring. And I just don't like his voice either. It feels like it's very phlegmy.
Kenny Albert, along with Moose and Goose, Darryl Johnston, and Tony Siragusa.
If that makes sense. Is that even an adjective? But feels like he's got a stuffed nose a lot, too. Okay, this is Steve Levy. He used to do Monday Night Football before Joe Buck. Him and Joe Tessitore were the Monday Night guys for a couple years there. The late 2010s, early 2020s. I think he's fine. I don't love or hate Steve Levy. I'll put him at the bottom of B tier. He does a lot of other sports. I think he does college football as well, but he's just not around that often anymore. I don't really think about him that much. I don't have a strong opinion on him, so I'll put him at the bottom of B. Here's the tough thing with Al Michaels, because yes, I want to put him in A tier, or even maybe S tier. I mean, he's just such a classic. But man, has he phoned it in the last few years. And I feel like it would be contradictory for me to put him high and also put Joe Buck high, because the reason I put Joe Buck high is because he's been much better lately. But it's my podcast. Comment down below if you think this is stupid, but I'm also going to put him in A tier. And I'm actually going to put him at top of A tier because it's Al Michaels. Well, I feel like I don't have much more to say. Yes, the last 2-3 seasons, he's been completely awful. He's been so uninterested ever since Amazon Prime wrote him the check. He's just been checked out. All the games he calls now are super boring. His last good call was maybe the Rams-Bengals Super Bowl, and even that was okay. So, look, it's Al Michaels. I mean, he's a huge part of our childhood.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
There's not much to say about Al Michaels. He's just so classy. He's called so many great games over the years. Sunday Night Football. Him and Chris Collinsworth are such a great duo. So, as much as it's contradictory that I put Joe Buck up there along with Al Michaels for different reasons, I'm sorry. It's my podcast. I'm going to put him at the top of A. Jonathan Vilma, F. He's the exact same as Mark Sanchez in that he jokes around sometimes when he doesn't need to. He talks over Kenny Albert. Not much worse of a duo in the NFL than Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma. Just terrible. I mean, anytime there's a big play, you just hear Jonathan Vilma go, "Oh!"
Nowhere in sight.
Uh-oh. It's picked off.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
We'll keep it moving, though. Okay, we have our only female commentator on here. She doesn't do too many NFL games, but I figure I'd put her in here just because I do remember her anytime she comes on screen, probably just because she's a female commentator. You don't hear that often. It's Beth Mowins. She actually called Mahomes' first ever start in the NFL in 2017, Broncos-Chiefs.
Mahomes trying to get him closer, heading the wrong way, and still has the arm strength to hit DeMarcus Robinson.
I actually don't mind her. I'll put her in B. I don't think she's too bad. I'll put her at the bottom of B just because she really is not around that often. I'm not sure what other sports she does, but yeah, she's just pretty normal, I would say. Rich Eisen. Now, I love Rich Eisen, watching NFL Network and watching him in the morning before game days start. I like his podcast, but we're just solely going off of play-by-play announcers. He does NFL Network games often. He sometimes does the London games as well. The thing with Rich Eisen, though, I just don't think he has tons of experience, so it doesn't come off as professional as some of these other guys. So I will put him at the top of C tier, although he's a very likable guy. Obviously, he does run during the combine. He has so many other things going on. He's a big face of the NFL, especially NFL Network. But in terms of just strictly broadcasting, I feel like there's nothing special with him. And when you watch him, you realize, okay, yeah, that's why he's not a full-time play-by-play guy. Noah Eagle, he's the newest of new on this list. I mentioned Ian Eagle earlier. He's his son. He actually just did the Olympics for NBC. He does basketball. And now he's just starting to do a couple of these games here and there for NBC. I believe he's done some of the Nickelodeon broadcasts as well. So he's definitely getting in the thick of things now. I think he sounds a lot like his dad.
He concentrates. He bends his knees.
What are you doing?
I'm doing play-by-play. That's what I do.
I wasn't aware this was part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. I do play-by-play. You shoot the ball. Make your free throw.
Whoa, demanding.
I like Noah Eagle. He's very professional. I don't want to put him too high because he's still very new, but I think he's already earned his spot in the B tier. So I'm going to put him like lower B tier right now with the very much potential to keep moving up. Okay, 2 more guys left. Let's go Mike Tirico first. Look, he does Sunday Night Football now. Anytime Al Michaels couldn't do it, he filled in. He's been around for so long. Another NBC guy, primetime guy. He's done a lot of big Chiefs games as well. I like him. I don't really have anything against him. I feel like he doesn't really have a personality, though. Like, is he a real human? I don't know.
Will Hill runs down the sideline. Hill's going to get a block. Will Hill is going to win the game on a blocked field goal. Unbelievable.
I can't really tell you much about Mike Tirico, but we're just rating him on his play-by-play. I think he's very solid. I'll put him right next to his co-host, Chris Collinsworth. I'll put him one spot behind just because Chris Collinsworth is a lot more classic, but... yeah, I mean, I feel like he just doesn't really have any crazy great moments, but he's also just solid and he does his job. And, I don't mind his voice either. So, yeah, I'll put Tirico in B tier. Finally, the most controversial of all, the man who's only done 3 games in his career, it's Tom Brady. He's a color commentator. He's the man that replaced Greg Olsen. He's with Kevin Burkhardt now. He's called only Cowboys games so far. And I got to just go based off of the 3 games he's done, not off of his name or the hype. He's a C tier guy right now. And I actually would put him right next to Kenny Albert. I gotta be honest, he's super boring.
Look, it's Mike Pereira. Hi, Mike. It's good to have you back.
Oh, don't leave me hanging.
So good to be back with you guys. It's just great to be here in Cleveland.
We love you, Mike. Of course, Tom Brady.
You can tell he's been pretty nervous so far. I think he will definitely improve. He'll get more comfortable. He's starting to lighten up a little bit, even just last week. But yeah, I mean, right now, I really don't feel like he's going to go down as a memorable guy at the moment. And he has good insight, and I was excited to hear him, but so far it's been disappointing. I got to be completely objective. We'll see how he does the rest of the season. But yeah, I got to put him in C tier for now. And there you go. We have all the commentators, play-by-play, color, whatever you want to name it, here on the tier list. I'll do it one more time. S tier, Kevin Harlan, Greg Olsen. A tier is Al Michaels, Jim Nantz, Kevin Burkhardt, Gus Johnson, Joe Buck, and Ian Eagle. B tier is Joe Davis, Chris Collinsworth, Mike Tirico, Chris Myers, Andrew Catalon, Spiro, Adam Amin, Troy Aikman, Noah Eagle, Steve Levy, and Beth Mowens. C tier is Rich Eisen, Kenny Albert, Tom Brady, Greg Gumbel, Kevin Kugler, and Brandon Godden. And then F tier is Jonathan Vilma, Mark Sanchez, and Tony Romo. So there you go. Please comment down below what you guys think. I feel like this is pretty subjective. This was a lot of fun to make. We'll definitely do some more tier lists as the season goes on. But yeah, there you go. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at First and Gold Pod. I've been Sam Gold. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next video.